can't see any of you because of these lights, which is probably a good thing. I am Kirsty. It's my absolute pleasure to be here with Daniel today to talk about a brand that likely needs very little introduction. Hugo Boss is just over a century old, globally recognized, known for tailoring and precision, and has really been, it's being repositioned for a new generation and a much broader lifestyle context. And it's a great time to be talking to Daniel at the moment because you've guided Hugo Boss through an amazing period of growth, and you have recently released a new strategy, the Claim 5 Touchdown. So I'd love to start by talking about that. What does that strategy represent, and how does it shift your approach to growth at Hugo Boss?
Thank you, Kirsty, for having me here. Welcome, everybody, also from my side. Well, to answer straight your question, it's not a complete new strategy. It's the second phase of the strategy, Claim 5. And Claim 5 was a growth strategy. So we were growing over the past few years. We basically doubled the sales within 4 years. And we refreshed the brand, we put innovation into the product, we digitalized the whole company, we put omnichannel in place, and we implemented also a new culture. And that was really a fantastic ride. 4 years, I think we really did great, but now is the new strategy in place, which is called Claim 5 Touchdown, which should bring us from great to excellent. And as you know, when you grow fast, there's also a moment where you grow, and I'm always explaining it a little bit. Fast growth means also you get some fat, and you have to change or convert the fat into muscles. And that's the second phase of this strategy, where we just go from great, or we try to go from great to excellence, and that's the strategy. Always linked to sport, touchdown. It's like you realign on the field, in the football, you realign, you maybe do a step back, and then you go forward and you touch the line.
And I love that. We're going to come back to sport because it's definitely going to be a through line of this conversation. In terms of this new phase then, how does that differ from the brand refresh that you did before?
So the brand refresh, as I said, the Claim 5 was a growth strategy.
Yeah.
Now the phase 2, or Claim 5 Touchdown, is also a growth strategy, but different. The first one was top line, and the second phase is a bottom line. So we get a lot more efficiency into the business. We try to optimize every area where we have been. We also go back to those areas where we haven't done so great. There's not everything was perfect. And there is some areas like women's wear, like Hugo, where we have to realign again and really optimize all the possibilities and get from good to great and then to excellent.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit more about that. What didn't work during those high growth years? So you mentioned women's wear. And I do think that for some people, Hugo Boss is still seen as a sort of men's brand at heart, but you've invested in and you've evolved the women's wear. Do you feel that's still an untapped opportunity?
Oh yes, I think there's no reason why women's wear in Boss cannot be as big as menswear. But we tripled the sales, but it's still not on an area like menswear. And I think we still have to optimize the product. We have to focus the lines. We have to clearly give to the end consumer a clear story for what we stand for, and then I'm convinced we can touch the line. If we get that right, we have to optimize also the assortment, from big to medium. So, the normal mistakes what you do when you grow fast.
Absolutely.
But this is now the moment to go into phase 2 and optimize all these points.
And you talked about turning fat into muscle. Can you give us a sort of concrete example of how you do that in a business like Hugo Boss?
Well, I can tell you how I do it. But it's, that's what I'm saying. We had a great growth. And you don't do everything right. And now, let me take an example here. When you land at the airport here in Dubai, that's for me excellent. When you see the hotel, when you see the service, when you see the setup of this shop talk, the outside, this is not just great, this is excellent, from A to Z. And I'm always saying what was good yesterday might be not good enough for tomorrow. And that's what we really critically ourselves. We scan, we look into the mirror, and define all these areas where we have to improve. That can be from a brand point of view, because today it's all about brand equity. It's we had the refresh, we surprised the customers all over, but now we have to build brand equity. That's the next phase. We also have to get the omni-channel. We have to actually maybe optimize the store portfolio. Where it works, great. Where it doesn't work, you have to move away. You have to close maybe some stores, and the whole distribution you have to optimize. And then we go also in back office. Wherever you have digitalization, AI comes in. You have to integrate AI. So there's so many points. There's so many areas. There's so many projects that you have to adapt also in the new world, which you can continue like you have done in the last 5 years. Things are changing. The world is upside down. You have to adapt to this new world, and you have to adapt your company to all these new things that are happening in the world, like AI, like digital, and so on.
And that presumably is why culture was a big part of the focus of, the strategy in the first place, is that you need then your teams to be on board with all of these changes, because you are describing something that's across so many different touch points in the business. It's a lot to process.
Yes, and that was, I think, that's why we got so fast. That's why we doubled the sales within 4 years, and actually we got to our goals 2 years earlier. That was clearly because of the teams, because they were all passionate. They were ready to go the extra mile. They really were trying to reach for the excellence. But the most important thing is, I remember when I started and I was on stage and I said, we have now 2 possibilities. You can wait until you trust me. Normally that takes a year, and then they say, oh, Daniel was okay, let's go with him. Or we trust each other. So you trust me now, and I will trust you. I don't bring all my old team into the business. I do it with you. And with that confirmation of trust, we could start the next day. And that, I think, is still the secret, what brought us so fast to the finish line, because that trust is in the company. I mean, every morning when you open the computer, everybody has this trust on the screen, and tries to also live to that value, which is, for me, the most important, because when you can trust, there's a book from Stephen Covey, it's called Speed of Trust, and when you read that book, it will change your life privately, but also in the business. And that's what we have done. I gave that to every employee. We have 18,000 employees.
You gave a copy to every employee?
I gave that book to everybody.
Amazing. And then checked that they'd read them. You quizzed them at the end. I'm hearing a lot of language already that brings me back to the sport theme, because you've got the Claim 5 touchdown. You're describing a lot of sort of discipline that comes through in sports. And I know that for Hugo Boss, there's been a long-standing relationship with sports, but you really do take those partnerships to a different level. It's not about logo placement. It's about how you really can truly tap into each other's worlds and find a sort of common ground. Tell me about some of the partnerships that have been working recently and why it's so important strategically.
So first I need to go into the sport. Also Claim 5. We call it when you reclaim, or actually when you have a comeback in sport. So many sport people, they have a comeback. And we were already referring Claim 5 to a comeback, because Hugo Boss needed a comeback. And because it lost relevance, it need to get relevance back. So there we said, we want to celebrate one day a comeback. So already related to sport. And then, as you said rightly, there's a history in sport of Hugo Boss, but it got forgotten and lost. And we said we want to go back. So we went into sponsorship. We seriously studied the sponsorship. And we said, we just don't want to do a sponsorship and put the logo on a wall.
Yeah.
We actually make it meaningful. And I just tell you, every investment we do, every sponsorship investment we do, you have to activate with the same amount of money. But that's a lot of money we invest into these partnerships and into the activation. But we also always try to do a business out of it. I make an example. So we are in Formula One with Aston Martin. We have a capsule collection with Aston Martin. And already a part of our investments we can get back through that capsule collection, which is also inspiring and gives you consumer excitement and drives the business. Or in tennis, we have Taylor Fritz and Matteo, which we sponsor, and with the Boss Open and so on, which is not just a sponsorship, but we made the business. So we sell a lot of tennis wear, and that creates also the return on investment on these investments. Or in ski, we have the Hahnenkamm race, which was just last weekend. We also create the capsule collection with ski. So that's how we do sponsoring. We activate with the same amount of money, but at the same time, we do a business to have a return on investment. And to be honest, so far it works well. The same we do in golf.
I was going to ask about return on investment actually and how you measure that. How do you measure the cultural capital that gives you as a brand?
So we have these testimonials and we involve them also into the business. So a Taylor Fritz, who just unfortunately is out in the Australian Open too early, but we test also on innovation fabrics. For example, the t-shirt he's wearing was normally for most of the brand, they have a polyester t-shirt, but we have innovation. It looked like polyester, but it was not polyester. It's a new innovation that we bring up and we also test. So we have these testimonials that we involve into the business. They help us to create this capsule collection and give input. They are not just going out and wear our stuff. We don't want to push them. And also on social media, we ask them to do it, but they should do it in an authentic way, how they feel comfortable. That's how we create these partnerships, and so far it works out. It's a different point of view, it's a different way of doing that, but we had incredible investment, the social media that is growing, but of course also this capsule collection that go from nothing to the triple-digit growth. So it's a new format that works for us at least.
That's so interesting. It is a very different way of approaching business, and it almost sounds like you're using those sports partnerships as a laboratory, right? You're testing out, you're pushing the boundaries in terms of performance. So do you then bring some of those innovations into the main Hugo Boss ranges?
Oh yes, absolutely. Clearly now I go a little bit in sustainability, but 60% of the garment worldwide production is produced in polyester or nylon. 60%, 30% is cotton and 10% is wool, but 60%. And polyester is plastic. And when you wash it, there's plastic particles, they go into the sea. And if we continue like this, in 2050, there's going to be more plastic in the water than fish. So we say, if we continue like that, there is no planet. So we have to take the responsibility, and it means no planet, no fashion. So this is, of course, we are investing a lot of money and we're testing because we want to replace polyester one day. And at the moment we have in place that we can recycle polyester, that we can bring a polyester that looks like polyester, but there is also one more that's ionic that really replaces polyester, but it's not yet scalable, but it will come one day. And if we can do that, if we replace that, we also have already jackets, we have outerwear, all in place that we are testing, but we cannot yet scale it. But yes, we want to replace, for example, polyester as soon as possible. The whole world should replace polyester.
Well, and we do need brands like Hugo Boss to support those efforts. I'm curious to know how your customers respond. Do you think that they're energized by that approach, that innovative approach? Or do you think that really for them it comes back down to quality of the material and they're not necessarily that bothered whether it's polyester or not, they want it to perform a certain way?
Well, you mean the end consumer?
Yeah, the end consumer.
The end consumer, they love the story, but you have to build a story, you have to give them a story. But one thing we clearly have seen, they don't want to pay more because it is sustainable. So we don't try to ask for more money. It is what it is, and one day the more you can scale it, the more you have the return on investment. But end consumers are clear the answer to your money is unfortunately not paying more. But they love the story.
Which brings me neatly to your positioning as this kind of bridge between premium and luxury. How is that something that you protect as costs are rising of raw materials, as perhaps you're innovating and trying to use alternative materials that do cost more to produce? What do you sort of fiercely defend in terms of, this is a non-negotiable, we will continue to do it this way?
Well, when we started with Claim 5, we said we're going to invest into the product. And that's something we believe very strongly. It's all about the price value. You cannot ask for a product and you don't get the value behind it. So from the beginning, we invested into the product. That means our margin was lowered, but we took that as an investment in the first 4 or 5 years. And we got a better, we actually improved all our quality of our garments. And we only had 2 small price increases over the past 4 years, because we believe at the end of the day, the end consumer long term wants to pay, will have a good price value, no matter what brand is on that. That's a short term hype, but long term, I think you buy the brand, not only in our industry, in every industry, when you have the best price value. That's what we try to do.
Yeah, and I think looking back, you've sort of been proven to be right, haven't you? Because we've seen a lot more pushback against price rises for the sake of price rises. And that's where I think you sort of sit at that, increasingly it's that sweet spot of a contemporary price point. You're still offering something that feels like it's a luxury product.
Yeah. We call it affordable luxury or upper premium. That's why we try to position ourselves, which is in this circumstances in the world, is the perfect position that we have, in our point of view.
And tell me a bit about the decision to split the 2 brands that was taken a few years ago. And as you said, it was, it caused a bit of a stir. And so we've got Hugo and Boss, and really quite clearly sort of targeted at different generations. What was the thinking behind that, and do you feel like that's worked out the way you expected it to?
Yeah, okay, that was a game changer. So when we started, we said, Hugo Boss is not anymore a brand. Hugo Boss is a platform. And on that platform, we're going to position 2 brands. One is Boss, and the other one is Hugo. So Boss stands for, everybody can be a boss. It's what you stand for, what you do, what you go, what you have, and what you can do. That's a boss, no matter if man or woman. And actually that worked, by the way, fantastically also for the women's wear. That's why we believe so much. Yes, even there's Boss on it, it can also work for women, because everybody wants to be a boss and everybody can be a boss. On the other hand, we had Hugo, which is more Gen Z orientated, so more rebellious, more the young generation that is, saying, you go your own way. So you go your own way, that was our story. And we have done, overnight when we split it, was a bit surprised, but suddenly we have 2 brands and we have 2 different groups, complete different campaigns, both complete different product and with a different story. And so far it worked pretty well.
Okay, any learnings, anything you do differently? I think you mentioned there, Hugo, there's been a bit of a learning process there. Does that still need some thinking? Yeah,
we tried probably in Hugo, as I said, we have to improve there. We went from 400 million to 700 million, but we were too niche. We had, we were too boutique. We were not commercial enough. The young generation, or more to the young generation, they also want to wear suits, but they don't want to wear a classic suit. They want to have a modern suit. And we probably moved too far there, and now went back to what they need, and already we implemented that already half a year ago, and it's starting to fast.
Well, we're already running out of time, which I anticipated was going to happen. There was so much that we wanted to talk about. But to finish up, I'd love to get your thoughts on sort of the leadership challenges that are facing the industry this year and beyond. What do you think CEOs should be paying more attention to, or perhaps talking about less?
Where? In?
Globally, in the fashion industry.
So leadership?
Yeah.
Well, I think today everything needs to be possible. I think you need to be, the passion, as I said in the beginning. But you need to have a vision. You need to be able to see the end, and I think you have to take your vision much higher. You need to see further than you have done in the past.
It's a real long-term
Long-term,
thinking, isn't it?
and you have to be able to adapt in between.
Yeah.
Because the world is changing, as we said. It's every day something new happening, and you have to stay positive. You have to give the energy into the business and to your employees, because that is what counts and that's what they want to see, but always in an authentic way. And you have to be an example, and if you do that, then you consistently stick to your vision with small adaptation, and your vision cannot be big enough. And one day you will get there. I always said, our investors or analysts, they always ask me, well, Daniel, in your vision claim 5, what can go wrong? I said, I think nothing can go wrong. The only thing, there was no wars and nothing, it can take a bit longer. And, but we are not afraid. If it takes longer, it takes longer. We don't do anything we should not do. And after 3 years, the war started. So we just had to be patient and wait. But we will get to that end goal. And I'm convinced. And we have the right team in place. They all go the extra mile. They're all also here, and together we will hit that touch line soon, hopefully.
Nice to bring it back to sports, and of course this is where the trust comes in. I'm afraid we've run out of time, but thank you so much for joining us today. It's so interesting to learn a bit more about Hugo Boss.
That was fast.
It was.